Hello. Yes, hello and welcome to Tech Select with me, Linus. And in today's live stream, we're going to be covering something simple, which is literally virtualizing your machine. Now, this is basically how you get to use a software to create some sort of computer inside a computer so that you can test out things and also maybe install operating systems and the like. In this case, today in particular, we're going to be looking at VirtualBox, and I'll also be doing an entire series of streaming where I will be talking about VirtualBox and how you can utilize it to the maximum to literally create a full instance of computer and have everything working smoothly. But in today's live stream, we're just covering the basics. One, how to download VirtualBox, how to install it, and also how to get your very first virtual machine running. So that's what we'll be covering in this live stream. Of course, we'll be having parts 2, 3, 4, and so on this very channel, so you might want to be subscribed in order to not to miss out on that. Now let's get straight into the computer. Now going over here to the computer, we need to get us a copy of VirtualBox. So what we're going to do is simple. Step one, we're going to go to Chrome and we need to download ourselves a copy of VirtualBox. So all you have to do is just look for VirtualBox right there, and then we have here, it's made by Oracle, so we have Oracle VM VirtualBox. Now once you open that, there we go. And of course, you always want to download the latest version that you can land your hands on, just so that things move a lot more smoothly. There are better compatibilities and all that with the latest one. So go over here to downloads, and in downloads over there, we're going to choose a Windows host. Yes, so we are hosting it on Windows, as the parent machine in this case is Windows, so we're hosting it on Windows, and then we're going to click download. Now this is going to take a little while as it downloads, and then we'll get back to that. Now, as this is downloading, actually let me just stop this download here. That's how you download. Yes, so I've stopped the download there, so that's how exactly you download VirtualBox over there. So in this case, I'm going to get over to our downloaded file, and we get to see what exactly it does look like. Now once it's done downloading, all we have to do is double click to get everything installed over here. Now where's my download file? We downloaded the file and we've double clicked it. Now step one is, this is how we're going to be installing our VirtualBox virtual machine right here. So we're going to click next. All these options here, I'm not going to be tinkering any of these, just leave those ones basic. You can see here there is where you want to, like the location where you want to install. We're going to leave that there. Yes, I want to leave all those boxes checked, and then we go to install. Okay, we are installing. Yes, now would you like to install a device from this? Yes, of course we trust the software. This is VirtualBox, it's been there for ages, so it's not one of those scammy things that happen. There we go, start after installation. Yes, now once we've done that, we can of course close our browser, and then now we have this. Now this here is exactly what we have as VirtualBox. Let me just remove these because they're kind of distracting. Okay, so this is what our VirtualBox looks like when you open it. So this is just a plain installation. Now time for us to do some virtualization, in that we want to install an operating system inside an operating system. Now here what we have to do now is just go to add. No, sorry for that. Add is basically when you already have a saved virtual machine. We'll go to new. Yes, so creating a new virtual machine, we're going to give it a name. In this case, we're going to be installing Windows, so I can call it Windows, let's say 10. I don't know if I still have Windows. Let's see. Let's just have a look here. Let's have a quick look here, the ISOs that I could have land my hands on here. Okay, right. So in this case, we're going to be installing Windows 10 right there. Now, if you notice here, it is, let's just get that out of the way. It's basically, okay, yep. Now, if you notice here, it is asking you where it's going to be saving its virtual machines. I have no problem with it being on drive C. The type is Windows, and 10 has already detected based on the name we gave it up here. So we click next. Now, this is the part where it gets a bit tricky, in that you've got to allocate RAM to your new virtual machine. You don't want to give it too much, because your best machine will freeze up on you, but again, you don't want to give it too little in that your virtual machine freezes up. So in this case, I think 2 GB is good enough. So we're going to create a new virtual hard drive. In this case, that is very fine. The dynamically allocated and fixed allocated. Now, the difference between these two, if I may just get over here, the difference between dynamically allocated and fixed size in the types of hard drives is fixed size. If let's say you chose 20 GB, it's going to actually eat up 20 GB on your original, like on your PC hard drive. So this is something you need to tread very, very carefully. And then in future, in case you want to expand beyond the 20 GB, you have some bit of issues left and right with expanding that. You'll have to go into the entire backend and all of that. But if you put dynamically allocated, what will happen is it just the drive that the virtual machine will use will keep expanding depending on how much usage you are using. So in case, if let's say you installed Windows, and Windows is about, let's say, 5 GB, so it will take up 5 GB. If you copied some movies onto that partition, and then you copied about an extra 5 GB of movies, and now it becomes 10 GB, the hard drive will automatically allocate itself and it becomes 10. Now, this is the best way to manage your machines, because if you're running a couple of virtual machines, if there are actually many, and you do the fixed type, you end up running out of space on your main hard drive quickly. So you need it to be kind of, dynamic. So it adjusts depending on what you are using. Now let's get back over here to our installation. So let's go for dynamically allocated, like I said, and then we'll go next. Now, if you see here, we can literally select amount of virtual hard disks in megabytes. So we can tell it how much it can push, like what is the maximum limit you'd want it to push up to. In this case, I think I'm comfortable with this machine going maximum of about 11 GB. So let's create that. Now, having created this, let's just maximize this over here. Having created this, now this here is our machine. So this would be an entire machine with CPU, RAM, and all of that. But before you go ahead and now start putting installing your operating system on this, there's just one more thing I like to do before we get to that. You go to settings. Yes, now here basically you're looking at the settings of your machine. How have you set up your machine? We're going to go to system. Now in system, you see already here is the amount of RAM we allocated earlier. We gave it 2 GB RAM. It has access to floppy, optical disc, hard drives, and over here, though this is the boot order, but of course this thing it has access to. Now I like to go over here to processor. Now, depending on what kind of processor you're running on your machine, it might be a quad core, this crazy super threading PCs. In this case here, the virtual machine automatically allocates only one CPU. Now, I've found this to be sometimes a little bit too slow. So what I'm going to do, since I have a quad core, I'm just going to give it 2 CPUs, so it will be a dual core kind of, setup. Now I'll go over here to acceleration and leave everything there, and then we come back here now to display. Now in display, basically here you're allocating how much video RAM, VRAM, your machine can access. In this case, being Windows, the maximum it automatically detects is 128 MBs of VGA RAM. Now, of course, you can always go and add more when you come to graphics controller. Over here, you can change the graphics controller you're using, and then change acceleration and all of that. But I don't want to mess with that at the moment. We'll be getting into that in a totally different video. Now, storage wise, here you can see this is the virtual hard drive we created, video of Windows 10, and then of course the CD image. This is the disk image, which in case you put it in can easily be picked up. Audio, we have automatic audio, it picks the original sound card in there. Network will be coming and covering an entire topic on all of this, on how to network your virtual machine with your main machine. Serial ports, port 1, port 2 will also come to that. USB. So basically everything here now is okay, especially now that we've pushed our processor to a dual core. That will give us better stability and a faster virtual machine. Right. Once everything is checking out and we feel comfortable with what we're doing, we can go ahead and click start. Now start literally just boots up your virtual machine. It's just the same way you go and press the on button on your normal computer. Now here we go, and it's asking us here to select a startup disk. What we're going to do here is add a virtual, what we're going to do is add an ISO actually, so that we can install. So in this case we're dealing with Windows 10. I do have my Windows 10 ISO here. I hope you also have whatever ISO it's you're using, and I hope you attained it legally. So all you have to now is click start. Now once it does this, you can see of course here it will say you have auto capture keyboard turned on. Of course, once you click in, it will auto capture your keyboard and mouse so that you can give the thing inputs, and of course it will be showing you how you can disengage that or not. Now here we have the usual Windows installation process beginning. All right, so once you hit start, everything loads up, the usual Windows loading screens and all that, and the entire prompt over there. And of course, we get to install Windows like we would do on normal ordinary machine. In this case, we're using Windows, but of course, you can install Linux or any other operating system that you're just trying to experiment on or to test on, or in this case to run all your experiments on, so that you don't affect your main system. Now, reason why I always have a Windows VirtualBox running personally is because I don't like having these new applications. Before I put them on my main system, I always want to have a neutral ground where I can actually test them out. So in that case, I always do all my testings in the virtual machine before I carry them over to the main machine. Now let's leave this here to install. As that is installing, let's have a quick chat about this. Now, why would you need to use a virtualization software, let's say like VirtualBox? In this particular case, one, it allows you to literally have an infinite number of computers within your one computer. But remember, when you're running a VirtualBox, make sure your hardware is actually up to par. You've got to have quite a powerful machine, because in this case your main machine is power, is pulling power, and then the virtual machine is also pulling power. So you've got to make sure whatever machine it is you're running has got to have enough power, good processor, and a good amount of RAM on there, to support the 2 or 3 or 4 whatever virtual machines you'll be running at the same time. Now, the other reason why it's good to have virtual machines on your machine installed is for for testing purposes. Now, if you like testing softwares before you not necessarily softwares, if you like testing, let's say, operating systems before you install them on your machine. In this case, maybe you want to test out a new Linux operating system, you want to test a new distribution that has come out, maybe DP or whatever distribution you'd like to test out, but you're not sure about how you're not very sure you want to commit to formatting your hard drives on your main machine, before you have a feel and look of what it looks like, then having a virtual machine is the way to go. You install it on virtual machine, have a good play around with it. When you feel you're comfortable and contented enough, then you can install it on your main hardware. There's so many reasons as to why you'd want to have a virtual machine running, but these are just some of the main pointers that I like to look at as the main reason as to why I would personally run a virtual machine. One, to test out new operating systems, just to make sure everything's up to par before I can push it onto my main machine. And then two, to test out software. Now, for instance, I'm running a Windows virtual machine. There's some softwares I don't really trust that much. I'm better off using them, installing them on the virtual machine, see how they either corrupt the system or what before I put them on my main machine. So it gives you basically a free environment or a second computer where you can test out these things. And also the other thing why you would run a virtual machine is like maybe if you want to run a quick server in your environment and you don't have the actual hardware, so you can literally share your hardware in between the main machine and the new server. So in this very series on VirtualBox, I will be installing a Linux server in VirtualBox and then accessing it over in Windows, so to basically have like a new inbuilt mini server happening inside your machine. So you can use this maybe if you want to host have maybe a small web hosting server for this is your home network, but you don't have the actual computers, to have it separate, and you just have to run it inside the computer. Or if you just want to have a small, maybe media server or something like this, or it's something really small, nothing very complex, but you don't have the actual physical hardware, to get that done, then in that case you'd use something like VirtualBox over here in order to have that running. Now let's get back, to let's get back to our installation and see how far it has gone. Hopefully it should be done by now, and then we get to play around and just show you what Windows looks like when running inside a virtual machine. So this is our brand new installation of Windows. As you can see, it's like in a windowed kind of situation, and yet we want it to go full screen. Now in order to go full screen, first thing we'll have to do is come over here to devices and then install guest add-ons over there. Now the guest add-ons, basically, like I said, it's like a drive that just has what we'd call maybe like the drivers for this particular virtual machine over here. Now let's see, additions, x86, I don't know which one it is. I don't yes, let's try x86, see how that does run. No, it's not x86, this is 64-bit because remember we put 2 CPUs, so definitely it's a dual core. We'll be running 64-bit operating system and also 64-bit applications. Now we're installing this. As you can see, it's asking there for some clarification, and once this is done installing, we should be good to go with the drivers, especially giving us a better look. Now once it's done installing that, we just hit reboot. Now of course it's going to restart, and hopefully when it's done restarting, we should have like the equivalent of VGA drivers and all these other drivers in the machine, so that when you hit the full screen button, it actually does go, the entirety of the screen without it having this annoying windowed kind of feeling over here. Now this doesn't happen only for Windows in this case. This also is for all of the operating systems that you install, on VirtualBox, be it Linux, be it anything really you throw at it. Definitely once you done installing, first thing you want to do is install the guest additions. On Linux you can either use this method or you can use the method via terminal, but why we like Windows is basically everything is click and go. Now if you notice, we are booted back into the system, and this is what we have. We still have our windowed kind of thing. Now if we go over here and go to view and then full screen, now you can use shortcut keys or we can just go to full screen mode. Now full screen mode over here, it brings you a notification that says the host key currently is right control. Now to exit, let's say full screen, or if you want to maybe like get back control of your mouse, you must know what your host key is. In this case it's right control. So let's switch over to full screen, and now this is what we look like in full screen mode. Everything works perfectly the way it's supposed to be, running smoothly, as you can see. Now this is basically Windows running inside my Windows. Now if I can just get this back over here, if we, let's say, exited this full screen mode over here, down here there we go. Now if I just made this smaller, just for aesthetic purposes, now you do notice this here is our main Windows system, and then over here is our virtual machine, so a machine running inside a machine. Now of course you can always go into the nitty-gritties and go further than this if you want to test out application, test out test out new softwares before you install them. Lots more can be done with this kind of setup, but in this case we just for this particular video, this is where we're going to be ending this video at for now. Now of course this is an entire look. We'll be looking further into VirtualBox and seeing how far it can go in terms of just the ability and the capability it gives you in terms of virtualizing. Today we've just seen how to simply create a machine the simplest way to start your journey into virtual machines. Basically we've installed VirtualBox, we've installed our first operating system, which is Windows in this case. We've installed the guest add-ons so that it can scale and also have all the drivers running. So basically this is what you'd have as the basic setup. Even if it were with Linux, maybe if it was a Linux operating system, this is basically the basic bit of it on how you can use it to virtualize. Hello. I'm actually happy with what we've been able to attain here today, everything feels really good and solid. And of course, I will be diving deeper and further into the whole VirtualBox thing. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, notification bell as well, so that you're alerted each time we release a new video, especially right here on this very channel. But for today, I think we've had quite enough. We'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.